Hello. Wondering, okay, is any of this working? Said I'd start somewhere at around now, and I think my webcam froze. Oh, that's just great. Okay, hold on. Let me see what's happening on from the other end. And, yep, looks like that's happening from the other end. I might just have to deal with it. Let's see if the resolutions window at least works. Uh, let's hold on. This is still happening live. Give me a sec. Okay. Yeah, okay, it probably works. Well, I'm just going to have to check up on that in a bit. Uh, here's the story of what happened. I recorded a whole video, 2 hours worth of footage, and, covering all of this resolutions packet right here. This one, see? And what happened was the mic was not recording the whole time. So there's no way to recover any of the content for that. Yeah, I mean, all you'll be able to see is just me fidgeting back and forth, moving my mouth, but you won't hear it. So I decided after a little while, and I was a little bit sick in the meantime, I'm just gonna do this live, see if anybody wants that, or just simply wants to watch it later. I'm okay either way, so we're gonna do this. I'm actually gonna double check something one more time, but yeah, this is the packet coming for the 2024 winter meeting. Winter meetings always happen first weekend, or rather, the weekend that is always before the legislative session here in Boise. So there's going to be there's rules and resolutions. Well, I've already covered the whole rules thing. That took 45 minutes or so, but I did it. And so right now I'm just waiting for something to happen on on the preview window, and whatever. It's just gonna have to. Go. But yeah, so I was gonna cover resolutions. I explained all that, and we're gonna go through this all together. Now, none of this should be all that shocking information. At least what's on the cover page here. As soon as I'm also fidgeting with something. Well, yeah, the good people, a lot of these good people. I'm gonna talk to Cornell at some point, I think. Uh, these are the people. These are pretty much the same as last time, I think. I thought Dan Cravens left the state. I wonder. This is a name I saw in the rules and resolutions document, I think. So that'll be interesting. We're gonna have a look at the table of contents here, see what's going on with it. I'm gonna try to give the same reaction that I had during the failed recording. Some things are just going to be obvious that I've seen them before, though. But calling for a 2/3 majority vote on initiatives. I want to see the presentation on this because there could be a a right way to go about what I think they're doing and a wrong way. We'll definitely read through what they're going on about, though. Definitely. Uh, I think they're talking about kind of the same thing with the second one right here. See, is the highlighting coming through? Yeah, highlighting's coming through. OBS looks like it's still working. And, oh, hey, the still frame changed. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, and there was Article 5 stuff in here. Article 5 Constitutional Convention, and I need to stay out of that one because, you know what? No, I'm not even going to explain. I need to stay out of that one, both pro and con on that. It's also going to be, uh, I school choice. Parents choose the curriculum. I'm curious as to what they're gonna. It sounds good, but there are oftentimes a lot of things that sound good, sound very voter or parent or citizen centered, and then they turn out to not to be. So I'm yeah. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Phone distracted me. Uh, Next, stop the political weaponization of labels and government. Mm, I actually don't remember what they're getting at, so we're going to read that together. uh, this scares me because I thought that's what the requirement was, at least one of them. I thought you had to be a citizen in order to be a peace officer. So definitely, yeah, definitely going to be interested reading through that again, and I kind of want to see the presentation on that. Let's see if that happens though, because I'm going to be bouncing in between rules and resolutions the whole time. I think I remember what this one was, but I may end up telling a certain story again. In fact, but give parents more control over children's digital access to pornography. Sounds good, but there's always an issue with implementation of that idea. Moving on. Governor appointment of county commissioner. Well, yeah, sometimes there's a reason for the governor doing that instead of the voter. We'll see what they're talking about there. Now, I've hyped this one because this one's, of course, my resolution that passed out of District 17, no less, protecting the identity and brand of the Idaho Republican Party. And everyone inside the Idaho Republican Party, this should absolutely be a concern of yours, and I will be saying as much. Let's see. Authority of counties and cities to regulate rental housing. I don't remember what they're getting at from the last time I did this, so there's a very good direction that they could be going with this, and there's also a very bad direction that they could be going with this. I want to see what they're doing. 24-11 is balance of power. Good title, but it's not very descriptive. I want to see where they're going because I don't even remember which one that is. Is OBS still working? OBS is still working. Good. Okay. Uh, Asserting limits in partisanship in. I don't like the sound of that because it goes against what a lot of us have been working towards. So we'll see what they have to say, but I'm already not liking it. Let's move on to the next. Prohibition of discrimination by race in hiring decisions for public institutions. I think I know what they're getting at, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Uh, Condemning dark money in Idaho campaign finance. I don't remember which resolution this is, but I think they're going in a good direction. Well, we'll see what they have to say later. Protection of Idaho public lands and adjacent. I remember somebody talking to me about this. There's some issue going on with public land and private property being neighbors. Let's see what they do. Somebody texted me something funny just now. He is apparently not watching. Okay, well, let's see. Establish standards and procedures for hiring, educating. Okay. Their heart is probably in the right place here. In fact, it's probably all good what they got going on in there. Unfortunately, the sad and brutal reality is that a lot of things that will happen in public education are not for the benefit of the children or the voter. Everything that happens in public education is usually for the benefit of the education lobby. But we'll see where that particular thing takes us. At least we'll go there. Order of hearing county submitted resolutions. I think I remember what this is, but so I'll just reserve my comments for when we get to that one. That's number 2024-17. We'll see what goes on. All right. 18 is going to be rejecting wind solar agenda. Okay. Sounds good, but we'll see what's going on. Opposition. The next one is opposition to the availability of marijuana to youth in Idaho. This sounds good, but this also sounds like it could be one of those, oh, won't somebody please think of the children kind of thing. Some really manipulative thing behind some other goal. So, and I don't remember this might have been one of the I'm not going to name them yet, but I bet this is one of his. Establishing processes to ensure fair and open debate. There's a couple of trick words in here that I'm hoping aren't manipulating people. And of course, the last one that we will be covering: mandatory minimum sentence for fentanyl trafficking. Sounds a lot like a lot of the issues that we'll also be dealing with that one. So, we'll be covering that when we get there. So, first resolution. Resolution 2024-1. Title: Calling for a 2/3 majority of vote on initiatives. Okay. This one is submitted by Lisa Keller and to be presented by a lot of usual suspects. I think I referred to them in the rules video. Okay, and a lot of these names are factionally closer to me, and I do actually hold a lot of these names in high esteem, like Doyle Beck, Nick Contos, those kinds of people. Well, let's read through the thing. Whereas 26 states, including Idaho, provide for an initiative or referendum. Whereas leftist organizations in recent years have used the initiative to enact policies that grow government, dictate behavior in the free market, or rig elections. Rig elections. I wonder if they're trying to provoke the press there, or if this is one of those things that the press is going to glom onto. I wonder I'm going to grab the popcorn either way. Whereas the U.S. Constitution guarantees every state a Republican form of government. This is true. And small r, not big R, but still. Whereas the initiative is a form of direct democracy. And they're probably using the true meaning of this rather than the popular meaning. So we'll see how that gets interpreted. Whereas of all the forms, I'm going to start that again. Whereas of all the forms of government our founders feared or criticized most, direct democracy was at the top of the list. Well, not wrong there. Let me see if I can change something in the background here real quick without having everything blow up. Well, okay, yeah, I'm just going to have to keep going. Whereas, when the initiative in Idaho requires a simple majority for passage, I'm going to try to read that again. I'm not sure if I got that right. Whereas, when the initiative in Idaho requires a simple majority for passage, which requirement is set in statute, I'm not sure that's a complete sentence, but I'm going to press on because I like what they're saying. I like the case I think they're building here. Whereas, because the initiative bypasses the House of Representatives, the State Senate, and the governor, it is only reasonable that the threshold for passage be higher. They're not wrong there, but you need to make a better case for that in the public. Just saying. Otherwise, things could go south real frickin' quick. Whereas some states, including Nebraska, Massachusetts, Mississippi, and Wyoming, condition passage of an initiative according to the number of votes cast in excess of votes cast in other statewide elections. Oh, that's interesting. I thought they were saying something different last time I read this, but I'm definitely going to want to see the presentation on this. Whereas in Nevada, an initiated constitutional amendment requires a majority vote in 2 successive general elections. Oh no, that one's interesting. Where you have to do it twice. I don't remember that one from last time. That's an interesting detail. Whereas Washington State requires 60% approval of initiatives dealing with gambling. Interesting. Whereas Utah requires 2/3 votes for initiative involving the taking of wildlife. I wonder why they have that specifically. But okay, I'm just going to keep going. Sorry, something distracted me in the background. Whereas while the Supreme Court has ruled on and blocked changes to Idaho signature gathering, it has never ruled on changes to Idaho statutes regarding the threshold for passage, and this remains in the purview of the legislature. Well, I agree that it definitely should remain in the purview of the legislature, but saying it like this could be tempting fate. Okay, but let's see here. Scrolling is all weird. I'm gonna have to use the keys on the keyboard here. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the okay, they're definitely gonna clerically change that, I bet. That the committee recommends the legislature amend the Idaho Code 34/1811 to provide that an initiative requires 2/3 majority for approval. Okay, well, that's what they were building towards. Be it further resolved that, as an alternative, that the legislature require 2/3 majority for initiatives proposing tax increase, the creation of a new government program, changes to the state's drug laws, or changes to the manner and conduct of elections. Being more specific there is a double-edged sword. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to blah, 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 that if the government are unwilling... Oh, here's something interesting. Be it further resolved that if the legislature or governor are unwilling to enact these changes as a means of safeguarding our Republican form of government, the initiative enacting statutes should be stricken in their entirety as antithetical and a danger to our republic. Ooh, a little spicy there. Be it further resolved that this resolution should be presented for consideration by the anti-Republican mind at its winter meeting, and that the party's leadership work with the legislature to see to it that. Okay. Well, that one's a passive yes. Future me, when you're going over everything, say that 2024-1 is a passive yes, and move on to the next one. Resolution 2024-2, amend Idaho Code requirement for passage of an initiative. This looks mostly the same. See, who's submitting this? Linda Yergler, the Shown County. Okay. Oh, they got it in right under the wire, didn't they? Yeah. I've done the same myself quite a few times. Because the late part of the year, it gets crowded. Yeah, this is mostly the same. I think it started a little different, but no, I don't think. I think this is the same one. Yeah, the resolve clauses are just a little bit more for the previous one. So, future me, say 2024-2 is same as 2024-1. All right, moving on to the third one. We're already on the third. Resolution 2024-3, titled Rejection of Article 5 Constitution Convention for any future consideration. Ooh. Submitted by Ronald Lee Linseman, Canyon County. Oh, this comes out of Canyon County? Well, that gets my attention a little bit more because they are a lot more conservative and a lot more based than Ada County. We're cleaning up Ada County, especially the Republican leadership. We've got better leadership in now, and we're cleaning up a lot of the bad things that the previous leadership did. But Canyon County here, they're all ready to go. And you know what? Hey, there's even some Ada County people helping in there. So you know what? This is already got a passive yes, but since it's an Article 5 thing, I might have to withhold comment. Whereas there's been a sustained effort to convene a constitutional convention by both left and right proponents making changes to the Constitution. Whereas a constitutional convention creates a risk of unintended changes being formalized and declared legal by an activist judiciary. They're not wrong there, but I really don't want to be involving myself in the argument with it if I'm ultimately not going to be commenting on Article 5 stuff. Whereas our fundamental rights are protected in the Constitution as currently written and amended. Not wrong. Therefore, be it resolved that the Idaho GOP will oppose a constitutional convention and will recommend to the state legislature and the Idaho congressional delegation that they oppose a constitutional convention. Well, let's see what the debate is on that in committee. Moving the future me 2024-3, just say no comment. All right, so 2024-4, title is School Choice Parents Choose the Curriculum. This is submitted by Forrest Tomlin, Gem County Chair, presented by the same, passed by Gem County Republicans all the way back in October. So they were at least a little bit more on the ball than I was. That's for sure. Whereas most parents want a good education for their children. That's true. Whereas it is a natural right of parents to oversee the education. Okay, there's something wrong about the grammar, and I can't quite put my finger on this, but I think they mean their education is a natural right of. Yeah, there's something wrong. They're trying to say too many things in the same sentence here, I think. Uh, but don't I don't hate the spirit of it though. Whereas R.S.S. Brownson in 1839 warned of the danger of allowing the state to control, such as to blah blah. There's a lot of stuff that I don't disagree with. Whereas parents are becoming increasingly concerned with the underperformance of public education and the lack of student. They're kind of understating it, but yeah, that's a thing. Uh, Whereas many of the curriculum concerns parents have had over the past 3 generations include lack of phonics, new math, common core math, and oh, this is a dig at Tom Luna. Because Tom Luna was the dude who was effectively responsible for bringing Common Core curricula to Idaho, and he later went on to be he later went on to later be, of course, the Idaho Republican Party chairman for a term, and then was quite swiftly removed at the next convention. But emotional social learning, oh yeah, ESL crap, and weak history, civics, and government curricula, none of them come from parents. Well, yeah, I could go through the history on how and why that happened. Whereas many good curricula exist which has been developed for use by homeschool parents, blah blah blah. I'm not sure what this term is right here. Barney schools. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to tell me, but yeah, and other parents could be used. Whereas the quickest way to change the direction of public education is to create structure where parents can unite together to form independent classrooms or micro schools to teach. That might start an argument, but I see where it's coming from. Whereas the legislature can create legal structures and allow parents to choose the curriculum, well, that is within the purview of the legislature. Therefore, be it resolved that by the Republican Party at their winter meeting to adopt a resolution that states, oh, so this isn't even the resolution to do it. It says this resolution says you should create another resolution that says the following, which the two ideas are not the same thing. So you need to write a better resolution, or just simply have a spine. The Idaho Republican Party supports to, and it's not wrong. I mean, this absolutely should be a concern of people. So okay. Uh, Future Me 2024-4 is a passive agree, and I'll just leave it there. I don't want to nitpick, at least not with something that's actually good. Moving on to Resolution 2024-5. First, I'm going to make sure that the VU meter is at least working on. Yeah, looks like it's still working over there on OBS, so I'm gonna move back to the thing. All right. Stop the political weaponization of labels and government, submitted by Jordan Marcus. But oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's one of the more respectable names that I've seen around. Out of District 9, that's one of the Canyon County ones, if memory serves. Anyway, whereas throughout history, the political weaponization of labels and government has led to sad and tragic outcomes. Well, that's not only is that really understating it, I think you're being a little bit too broad here, but not wrong, though. Whereas during the 1600s in Massachusetts, men, women, and children were persecuted for their religion, labeled by socio-political opponents as heretics and witches without due process, and murdered. Well, murdered is putting it lightly there. Yeah, that's putting it lightly. Whereas under Executive Order 9066, in the name of national security, oh, okay, so we're talking about the internment camps. Okay, there is a problem I have with this whereas clause right here, though. You should absolutely name the people in the United States government that were responsible for this, and that includes FDR and any of the involved underlings too. So this right here, I think, is insufficient. But I like the case that I think you're probably making here, so I'm not going to hammer the point too bad. Whereas on September 29, 2021, National School Boards Association asked President Joe Biden to label parents domestic terrorists for questioning local school board policies, and Attorney General Merrick Garland mobilized the FBI. Well, yeah, this is a thing that happened. Absolutely, should be a lot bigger scandal than it was. Whereas on November 16, yeah, that's absolutely a thing. The FBI is using counterterrorism tools and assets against parents. That's not good. Okay, so this is going slightly different direction than I thought it was going, but I don't hate it, so we're going to keep going. Whereas President Joe Biden gave a speech on September 1st, 2022, in which he said MAGA Republicans represent. Okay, and it was by violent. Yeah, not wrong right there. I don't like how that's a separate sentence, though, because you're supposed to write a resolution as if it's a complete sentence, one complete sentence, but I like where this is going, so I'm just going to bite my lip a little bit. Uh, Whereas labeling of political groups as extremists may have created a climate of fear, so that by September 18, 2022, a North Dakota man ran over and killed oh, that's right. That is definitely a thing that happened. Who he later described as being a Republican extremist group, stating that he felt threatened by the team. The climate, yeah, and the team was just like walking. In fact, walking away from him at the time too. The the man who ran over the kid did not receive enough punishment either. So okay, so here we are. Be it resolved that the so and so Republicans, probably going to be clerically changed to Idaho Republicans if it gets passed, rejects all forms of racial, religious, sexual, and political supremacy. Okay, all political violence, okay, and now they're just references. Okay, well, you had all that build up just for this, though. There should be more meat on the bones with these resolved clauses. This is not a bad resolution, but it could be a lot better, especially if you put in the work for it. Future me, say resolution 2024-5 is good, comma, but could be better. And we'll move on. Ah, dang it, lost my place. All right, resolution 2024-6, only United States citizens recognized as peace officers. Well, hold on, I'm going to check something real quick here. This is a thing that I thought was already the case, but the title is implying the title is implying otherwise, and I'm gonna have a look at the live feed again real quick. Something I've noticed in the background. Let's see. Just I'm gonna keep talking here though. This is submitted by Tammy Payne, Owyhee County Chair, to be presented by the same. And Owyhee County got their stuff in October 10, it looks like. So, okay. In that case, crap. I just undid 5 or so minutes of clicking. Well, hold on a sec. I'm going to see if I can do two things at once here. Whereas, historically, peace officers in this great nation have been required by federal law to... okay, yeah, the thing is working on the other end. I'm going to put down my phone and keep going. Historically, peace officers in this great nation have been required by federal law to be citizens of the United States. Whereas, per Idaho code, totally not looking that up right now. I'll just trust it. Maybe in the build up to the actual meeting, I'll look it up. Illegal aliens, criminals, and non-citizens cannot be peace officers, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Whereas on July 28th, 2023, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois signed a bill into law allowing non-citizens to become peace officers in Illinois. Okay. Whereas on January 1st, 2023, California Senate bill went into effect allowing non-citizens. Oh, that's great. Whereas the states of California and Illinois blurred the line between law enforcement and breaking the law by their respective jurisdictions' promotion of non-citizens to peace officers or law enforcement officials. Well, they're not wrong there. Whereas on September 22nd, 2023, Customs and Border Protection reported that a breaking number of... Okay, I'm just going to trust all that. If I read every word of this would take forever. Whereas the Bill of Rights, Amendment 14, Section 1 says, oh, there's some 14th Amendment stuff going on right now in other places, but okay. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges. Oh, they cut off at an interesting place there. I'm going to have to look that up later. Aliens and novices are not citizens and therefore are not entitled to the rights and privileges, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Whereas constitutional rights and privileges of citizens have been undermined by the Biden administration's unprecedented open border policy and its tolerance of yada, yada. A lot of things that I agree with and I've heard before. Whereas the Idaho Republican platform, Article 17, National Defense, Section 4, securing the border. We believe that securing the national border must be a priority for our country. Yeah, I do remember talking about that when I did all the platform videos. Whereas the preamble to the party platform, yeah, they're not wrong there. It says it. I remember that being in there. Whereas allowing non-citizens to enforce U.S. and or state laws on U.S. soil actually breaks the law and erodes Idaho's state sovereignty, the constitutional rights of U.S. citizens, and national security. Well, not wrong. Therefore, be it resolved that the Owyhee County Republican Central Committee respectfully requests that the take an official position on all of everything that we've just been talking about. Be it further resolved that the Owyhee County respectfully requests that forward to blah blah blah. Not wrong. I don't hate it. Be it further resolved that the Owyhee County Republican Central Committee asks the Idaho Republican Party request the legislature to enact. And oh, okay. Okay, so future me. Write down Resolution 2024-6 as agreed. All right, next resolution 2024-7, give parents more control over children's digital access to pornography, submitted by, it is the person I was thinking. Whereas, here's Trent Clark, presented by Trent Clark, Caribou State Committeeman. He's using this position instead of the one or two others that he's using. I find that interesting. Getting stuff in late like I am. Whereas the Idaho Senate in 2023 came within one vote of passing legislation giving parents control over whether the child's internet-capable device can access pornography. Well, you're attacking the issue from the wrong end, but okay. Whereas pornography has been found harmful to, I do not disagree with any of this. In fact, I've seen some bad things happen. Whereas the National Center on Sexual has made it tougher to give parents more control of digital devices available to underage children. Okay. Uh, I think the story that I'm about to say that I think it would be best served in, you know what page is this? I'm going to come back to this. What page is page 12? Okay. Well, how many resolutions were on this? Uh, to pornography. Um, for establish them for hiring personnel. I think my story would fit there too, but okay. You know what? Actually, I think I'm gonna have to tell my story here. It fits best there. So okay. I'm gonna have to tell you a decision I made about myself a long time ago, and then the a place and times of where that happened. So long time ago, uh, the dude that you're hearing speak to you right now, there, Matthew Jensen, of course, me. He was a teenager in a high school some time ago. I'll say that. And this wasn't exactly the beginning of internet being available in schools. Of course, this is 20 years ago now. Some of this over 20 years ago now. And there was a point in which I decided that, because I was still thinking of myself as somebody who would go into information technology or computer repair, or be the person that was in charge of a network or something. But I made the decision back then, after some things happened, that I'm never going to apply for such. I'm never going to go for such a job in a school, in any kind of school, ever. And the reason being is because of how things were handled regarding harmful things online. Mostly we're talking about pornography here, but there are some other things that would also fit. Harmful things online that a child might encounter if it's, has access to, if that child has access to the internet. And so this was actually quite a few years into having internet available in the school that I was at. And by this point, yeah, I'm in high school. In fact, I was going to Bora High School at the time. And what happened is that we started noticing that the the content filter that was at these schools, it was, of course, imperfect. There was ways to get around this, and not only that, but there were there was basically no way for the adults in charge to ever really find out that kids were getting around the filter. And an unfortunate turn also came around that some of us, and I'm including myself in this deliberately now, because the statute of limitations is probably up by now on this. But some of us noticed that there was not only a way, but different ways. And so we kept on finding different ways to get around the filter. By this point, it was called BESS. It had the logo, a stupid logo of a dog on it, Bess, BESS, and it was the filter was definitely trying to filter out pornography, but definitely was not succeeding in an increasing amount of cases. So we noticed that there's different ways, and there was growing different ways, and so we made a game out of it. We gamified the whole paradigm where you got a little bit more points, more respect if you found different ways to get around. And right at around this time, I find out something interesting about the online translator, a popular online translator out of the day, because by then, of course, this is probably 2002, 2001, 2002, 2003, where uh, there's content available in all kinds of languages. Babelfish was, because I don't think Google Translate was around yet, but Babelfish, not only would it try attempt, and some languages it actually did okay with translating text from some language to English or English to whatever language, but it also had this feature, and this still happens with Google Translate, by the way. I've checked it, where you put in the URL for a page, and it just automatically translates everything, in that web page anyway. Now, I thought to myself, okay, what if I could translate something to, because I had a theory about how the best filter worked at the time, which is sort of correct, but I'll get there. I had that it was just filtering out certain arrangements of characters and things like that, and it wasn't actually um, in fact, we didn't really have the processing at the time to really filter out graphical content. So I used the translator with a non-Roman to translate to a non-Roman alphabet language and then back again. So Russian, Chinese, etc. I would just translate the page to the other language, the non-Roman or non-Latin rather, and then back again. I could see the whole thing. And not only that, but somewhere along the line, it started carrying over images too, and it would just blow right through the filter. The filter would not know that anything was even wrong. And I received a lot. I received a lot of cred for figuring that one out. So why am I telling this story? Well, it's because these are the reasons why I'm never going to take a job, an IT job with a school, because the future of society is actively working against you every second to get around such filters, and their brain power is not only going to be a little bit more motivated than yours. It's going to be a little bit more sharper too, and also there's going to be a ton more. If you're just an IT staffer, you may be only one person or maybe a handful of people. And how many kids are going against you? Filtering is the exactly incorrect paradigm for all of this. You shouldn't filter. You should log everything that happened. You should definitely see what your kids are doing, and for heaven's sakes, take a lot more responsibility for it. This stuff right here, it is the wrong approach and has been the wrong approach for generations now. It was the wrong approach back when I was in school and has been the wrong approach in the decades since. And I'm not going to mention who this involves or in what school, in what school district, But there is a school district in Idaho that I happen to know the parent and the kid, and I told them to try, and they have a filter naturally. I told them to try a very similar thing to that double translation method yeah, it worked for them. So, in reality, not a whole lot has changed since I was a teenager in high school. This is the wrong approach. So, future me. So, I'm just done with this. So, future me, if you are still listening, say 2024 7, disagree, comma, and for reasons. And then I'm just going to have to move on because I've already spent a lot of time on that one. All right, 2024 8. Moving on. Governor appointment of county commissioners. Okay. Submitted by Howard Rynerson. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Payette County Chairman to be presented by the same. Passed by LD9 out in November. Okay, well, at least a little bit better than me on that one as far as the timing. Whereas in the case of a vacancy of a county commissioner before their term has expired, the county central committee convenes to interview candidates for okay, yeah, that's the thing that happens, of course. Whereas typically candidates are better known by their county peers than by the governor, i.e., their community involvement, overall reputation, yada yada yada. Okay. Whereas the results of interviews reveal one candidate being the obvious best choice. Well, most of the time it happens like that. Sometimes it doesn't happen quite like that. Sometimes you get multiple good choices. But I'll grant that for the time being. I don't want to argue on that. Whereas the Central Committee submits 3 names to the governor, as required by state statute, of course. According to party rules, the 3 names submitted should be in preferential order. Okay, that is a thing. Whereas it does not require 3 names being provided. Okay, what are you getting at, Val? I feel like you're taking a long time to get to. I feel like this is taking a long time to get to somewhere where the road should be a lot shorter. Whereas historically, the governor very seldom appoints the county central committee's preferred choice for interim. Okay. Whereas this inevitability results in state jurisdiction taking control away from. I agree with this, but not everybody is going to. So I want to see the presentation on this, see where it goes. There now, therefore, be it resolved that the Idaho Republican Party opposes the current statute allowing the governor to consistently override the county central committee's preferred choice. Okay. The power of the people should be returned to the local government jurisdiction where it belongs. Therefore, we resolve that the governor shall, by law, appoint the county's preferred choice unless that candidate is found to be lawfully unqualified. Oh, we're starting that fight again. This is not a new discussion. So it's currently at a standstill because of a dangerous cycle. I'll just say that. Whenever a bill is before the legislature, in the Idaho State House, that changes details like this include, in fact, I know that there has been a bill in recent years on this very subject of choosing county commissioners. What they say, what usually tanks the bill, and the reason why it doesn't actually get any traction is because somebody will say in committee, well, we haven't heard from the parties on this one. So, and we usually do things in partnership with them when we change this kind of detail. So, if we haven't heard from the parties, we're not. I'm not going to vote for this bill, et cetera, et cetera. And so then when somebody tries to come at the issue then from the other direction, from the party direction, with like what this resolution right here is trying to do, what happens, and this is usually the second day, by the time it's actually made it out, the resolution has made it out of committee and we're in full general session, somebody will get up and say something like, well, if the Idaho legislature doesn't want to do this, then we shouldn't be passing this resolution either. And so because one doesn't want to, one is leaning way too much on the official word of the other, neither will start that engine going. And I'm just watching myself in the still frame with the webcam here. But yeah, and so I hope that this this resolution uh, breaks that cycle of suck, and that we can actually get some things going as far as what the Idaho Republican Party wants in those Idaho Code changes. We'll see where it goes. I don't have high hopes for this because this has gone back and forth a few times. I don't have high hopes for it, but you know what? I would very much love to be wrong. But as far as my own personal verdict on this, future me, write down Resolution 2024-8 as agree. All right, now we're going to move on to the next one. Here's the one that I was hyping for the past couple days, because this is the one that I wrote, and I got it passed out of. See the way that I put it in, I think one of the other videos was some ugly dude be presented by the same ugly dude, passed by some committee with this ugly dude in it. So this one is, of course, 2024-9, protecting the identity and brand of the Idaho Republican Party. Whereas, and this is what I wrote down word for word. I literally just copy pasted this in later, because I wrote this down at the special meeting at the country club. After the Chalice meeting, there was a special meeting that needed to be for the national committeeman thing, and there was a person who shall remain nameless, Drinkluck, that was not only being openly dilatory, but borderline disruptive in motions that he was making, and debate that he was making. And at some point, the state chair, Dorothy Moon, got fed up with him to the point where she just outright said, the press does not dictate what happens in the Idaho Republican Party. And I thought the line was so good that I wrote it down immediately, and later I just copy pasted it into here. So, moving on. Whereas, in order for our message, our philosophy, and our efforts to be maximally effective, the R next to a name must mean something. And and I'd love to be challenged on that. If you're going to say that the R shouldn't mean something, I want you to come with ammunition and evidence on that. Because R is supposed to mean Republican, and it's supposed to mean, when it's next to somebody's name, that means that name, that person, is supposed to be Republican. And we're in a situation now where obviously a lot of the times it doesn't mean that, even though they try to make certain attestations and profess otherwise. Either way. Whereas the Idaho Republican Party owes nothing, either legally or morally, to those who would exploit the good name of the party for their own ends. And no, there's a lot of different little things over the years that I could definitely point towards, but I think it can be admitted that there are a lot of people in the party that are basically just putting an R next to their name for their own ends, whatever ends that is, whether that is some leftist cause, or maybe it's not even that kind of thing. Maybe it's just for their own personal gain in some way. There's been a lot of this, and I'll just move on before I start ranting. Whereas when we, the Idaho Republican Party, see elements of the Idaho Democrats openly brag about influencing Republican officials away from Republican philosophy and the Republican platform, as well as switching their own voter registration to Republican for the express purposes of interfering with internal Republican Party business and primaries, it would behoove us to use any and all available and legal means to stop the perfidy. And in recent decades, this word has purported to mean something a little bit more specific than it actually is. Perfidy just it means deception or dishonesty. Perfidy in the international law sense, in the treaty sense, means something that is disguised as civilian when it's military. But no, but this word is exactly what that word should be. So I'm just gonna move on. Um, whereas there have been Republican. Now I do when I criticize other resolutions and other rules, I often criticize phrases in quotes as being unclear, and most of the time you do not want to be unclear. No, this is I I've I'm being purposefully unclear here, as in I'm pointing out that there are some people who identify as Republican that obviously aren't. But anyway, whereas there have even been Republican candidates in the state of Idaho that, for whatever reason, immediately abandon Republican principles and the party platform upon election and then pretend to be Republican again during primary and general election seasons. So especially the latter part of it, that's in there because there is a certain name that is probably going to come up, but I'm trying not to actually mention it specifically. But this could be used both against really conservative people and really not conservative people, really Republican and not so Republican. A lot of the times, this something like this could definitely be used against both, and get around that by having this only really apply to people who already got elected in one cycle, acting poorly, and then want the party resources, party support again when they have not been Republican. So it gets a little bit more specific when I mention this again. Whereas it has been upheld many times, both in legislation and in the courts, that the Idaho Republican Party has both the right and duty to take care of its own business and all matters under its purview. I'm not wrong there. I know I'm not wrong there. But somebody will try to argue otherwise, and I'm just waiting for that. Um, so that's the end of the whereas clauses. We're into the resolved parts. Therefore, be it resolved that the Idaho Republican Party promulgates the following principle for all of its business. If you run as a Republican, you must serve as a Republican. And yes, there is a very specific word that I've chosen here, promulgate. And yes, that is for the legal implications. And I could go down a whole rabbit hole of a lot of the research I had to do going into the Chalice meeting. Why that word is important. But I'll move on. Therefore, be it resolved that the Idaho Republican Party reserves the right to withhold any resources it sees fit to any official elected but not serving as a Republican. See, this is where elected but not serving is a very important distinction. If you've got somebody who hasn't even been elected as a Republican yet, hasn't run as a Republican yet, has not had a chance to serve the public yet, this does not apply to them. And does so under the inherent and constitutionally recognized freedom of association, as well as the freedom to protect its own identity and brand. Because that is also a thing. And yes, I did just use part of the Bill of Rights here. That was on purpose. Therefore, be it further resolved that the Idaho Republican Party requires its candidates to read the Idaho Republican platform and state where they agree or disagree. And I think that's just only fair. That's just only fair. I mean, if we're a party, we believe in certain things, and we've outlined the standard of being a Republican in a platform, it's only fair to have a candidate say whether they agree or disagree. Only fair. Therefore, be it finally resolved that the Idaho Republican Party hereby puts out a call to its committees across the Gem State to formally draft a more concrete rule in the same purposes and spirit of this resolution, because I want a better rule. I want a better foundation for this action than just simply a bunch of whereas clauses that I wrote. We want something better than just this stuff. We need anyway. So, future me, you already know what 2024-9 is, but just say yes with a smiley face emoji or something. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to move on. Enough about me. Resolution 2024-10, the authority of counties and cities to regulate rental housing. Submitted by Legislative District 19, to be presented by Blair Moss and Lynn Bradesky. Oh, yeah, that's okay. Now, I always pointed out, and this is, in my view, not an insignificant thing. Lynn and I have been two people, along with many, many, many others, working towards certain working towards certain goals, I guess I'd say, locally here within the Ada County Republican Party. Now, historically, we have been on different factions, and we still more or less are. However, I have worked together with her before, and she is a Republican, just like I am, so I will at least hear her out. So, counties regulate rental housing. The state of Idaho is a place where individual property rights are highly cherished. Yeah, that's a thing. Whereas the city of Boise has adopted an ordinance that violates these cherished rights by requiring that any property owner within the city who wishes to blah blah. Okay, so you have to do Section 8 stuff. The rules about that are okay. They're okay. I'm not going to read through this whole thing because I'm a bit out of my element with property stuff and rental stuff, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, okay. So they're just making the point here that City of Boise is being onerous and burdensome with property owners. Okay, I'll accept all of that. And the mention of Iowa is weird here. The state of Iowa has already enacted blah 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 blah. Okay. Well, be it resolved that the Idaho Republican Party condemns the adoption of any local ordinance that mandates property to be forced to participate in an optional Oh, okay, that's what she's getting at is this is supposed, the whole federal thing is supposed to be optional anyway, which I don't hate it. Okay. Be it further resolved that the Idaho Republican Party calls on the state legislature to introduce and adopt similar legislation, sort of model legislation by. Okay, that's why she's mentioning Iowa. Okay, I thought it was just a typo, but no, that was on purpose. Okay. Be it further resolved that the Idaho Republican Party calls on the governor to sign such one when it's presented to him. I don't hate it. In fact, that's what I'm going to put on. Future me, 2024-10. I don't hate it. Smiley face emoji. That's what you're going to put on. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one before I lather on anymore. Resolution 2024-11. Title, Balance of Power. Submitted by, it just says LD14. Okay. Be presented by Stephen Thane. Former senator. I've had some conversations with him. And I think this is about the only place where I can really mention this, so totally going to mention it here, even though it's only slightly related. So, Senator Thane is definitely not really all that close to me as far as factional alignment is concerning, and that was definitely clear by the time we were going in for. I think it was it had to have been the second general session on the second day in the Chalice meeting. But I am just my brother and I are walking back into the celebration hall at that place near Chalice where we were holding the meeting, and I'm just saying crude Portuguese to Tom. We're conversing that way. Um, I think it was more just as a bit of fun than concealing and as a means of concealing anything that we were saying to anybody. And so when I don't think that Senator Thane saw my brother coming, but so he was just trying to talk to me, but he was trying to talk to me in Portuguese because he realized what I was saying, and and that's about the point where Tom comes around the corner and starts talking about, oh yeah, blah 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 blah, yeah, we have a Portuguese branch out of blah blah blah, and so at least we connected on in that area. I come to find out much later when I'm back in Boise, yeah, the reason why Steve Thang can speak Portuguese is because that's where he had his mission. Go figure. So with that, whereas I'm just gonna, this one's called Balance of Power. Interesting title that doesn't actually say much on its own. So, whereas Republicans support limited government, this is true. Whereas limited government is a state of being where the power of government and the power of the people are in balance. I would not necessarily agree. I would say that when the power of people is thought to be more supreme than that of the government, but whatever. This is roughly okay with the platform. Um, Whereas when the powers of the people and of the government are in balance, whatever. The main purpose of government is to protect the rights and possessions of the people from threat of external invasion and internal violence. That's a longer way of putting it, but that's more or less correct. Whereas government gains power by taking and centralizing responsibilities, power, and resources from the people. That's not the only way, but I'll grant it for the purposes of the resolution here. Whereas when a government gains too much power, taxes increase. This is a very centrist Republican way of stating it, but he's not wrong. Whereas responsibility is the carrier of power. I'm leaving that alone. I could nitpick that, but I'm leaving it alone. Whereas, as government accumulates and centralizes responsibilities, especially in areas of education, healthcare, and poverty programs, liberty of the people and their institution of the family is undermined. Not wrong. Definitely not wrong there. Whereas the United States government is out of balance and has centralized too much responsibility, granting itself power to take care of people in a manner never intended by our founding fathers. I think um, I think somebody's been reading some Antonin Scalia. Whereas this excess of power of the government can be transferred back to the people by creating legal structures that facilitate. Oh, there's that phrase again. Creating legal structures. By creating legal structures that facilitate the transfer of power and responsibility back to willing citizens in their institution, the family. Not wrong there. Um, I would like to hear more about what this actually, what your plan actually is here. But okay, I mean, I'll go with it. Whereas responsibility transfer structures, oh, whatever. These structures, I'll just say, will have the most positive impact in areas of education, healthcare, and poverty programs. Well, you got to be careful with that last one there. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the Idaho Republican Party, support and encourage the Idaho legislature to create legal structures that. Okay, everything you just said. All right. Well, okay, future me. 2024-11 is a. I don't hate it. Just say that. All right, moving on to the next. Resolution 2024-12, asserting limits to partisanship in municipal elections. I already don't like that because a lot of I and a lot of good friends of mine have been working to the opposite. Let's hear them out, though. Let's see. Submitted by Todd Thomas, Franklin County, to be presented by the same. And they got their stuff done before a lot of time before we did. October 27, which is good. At least they're better than me on that. Whereas the platform of the Idaho Republican Party supports no partisan decision making with regard to contracting for construction and maintenance of infrastructure. I think I know what part he's referring to, and they're kind of stretching. And I don't think that there's going to be really a way to actually shoehorn this in, but there is a feminist way of collecting garbage, as it were. There's a feminist way of snow plowing streets, as it were. You think that there really wouldn't be, but that has a lot to do with what you said here, where it's not completely correct, and I think they're stretching the platform a little bit farther than where it really should be. Whereas the best local governance in towns and cities come from individuals motivated by altruistic love of community. Really? I'm just going to have the viewer stare at that for a moment before I continue. As such positions rarely pay lucrative salaries and do not financially support extensive partisan electioneering and campaign. What point are you think you're making here? I bet it's not actually it. Whereas political parties are tools for achieving good government. Well, I would argue that the Idaho Democrat Party is absolutely not that, but okay. But the power of a party is not an end goal itself superior to responsive and effective government. Well, they're supposed to be one and the same if you're following the platform, but you've already stretched it a bit. So, yeah. The problem is that the author here, I can tell, he thinks of the party in terms of the power that it can wield rather than what a party is actually for. But I'm just going to leave that be. Whereas in an environment where scarce volunteer leadership, selecting persons of good character may be a higher priority than partisanship in the composition of local boards, council. I don't think you made the point you think you just made, but okay. Uh, that just means you suck at working with people. If this is as serious of a problem as you think. Um, Whereas building consensus within small towns frequently requires statesmanship and more than political. That is true, but then single-minded partisanship. Only if you. This is only a thing if you suck at this. That should be more of your problem than anyone else's. Whereas it is only in larger communities where decision making often defaults to overarching political flaws. That is absolutely not true. And I gather that this person lives in a smaller community and they should know better than to say something as stupid as this. Only in larger communities where decision making often defaults to overarching political philosophies than partisan yield benefit to any voters. Um, like I said, though, there is a feminist way of snow plowing streets, and it is obviously not a thing that should actually be implemented or tried. And you really should be building more on institutional knowledge, and not only that, but you should also just be building on your own experience and your own your own accomplishments and your own wins, than really taking pot shots at municipal elections being partisan. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the IDGP Central may actively advocate and urge that any conversion of Idaho's currently nonpartisan elected leadership to partisan to be limited to jurisdictions over. Screw you, and you know why, and you at least should know why that can't be the case. So, future me, Resolution 2024-12, say hard no, comma, and it sucks. Moving on. Resolution 2024-13, prohibition of discrimination by race in hiring decisions for public. Well, that should be it. You shouldn't necessarily be making diversity hires, as it were. You should be you should be hiring the person that is most competent and qualified. So let's see what this Faye Thompson here has to say. She's apparently the probably a she. Valley County Chair to be presented by the same, passed by Valley County in mid-October. Well, they were on the ball a lot more than a lot of the Ada County ones, that's for sure. Whereas the Valley County Republican Central Committee believes that all individuals should be treated equally and with dignity, and that every person should have the right to be considered for employment based on merit, qualifications, and abilities without regard to. Yeah, this is straight out of the Republican platform, too. Okay. Whereas practices that prioritize race, also known as affirmative action, in hiring decisions for public institutions may inadvertently lead to reverse discrimination and undermine the principle of equality. Find a better phrase than reverse discrimination. Now, we all know exactly what you mean here, so I'm not going to harp on you too much, but you may need to find a better way of expressing this. Because what you need the phrase to mean and what it actually means are two different things. Now, I know what you're getting at here, and your heart's in the right place, so I'm gonna keep going. Undermine the principle of equality. Well, of course it does. Absolutely, 100%. The equality in its purest form is the antithesis of hiring quotas, diversity hires. What's the affirmative action? Affirmative action is the opposite of equality. Always has been. Whereas The United States Supreme Court, in its recent ruling in blah blah blah, has affirmed that the use of race in college admissions is discriminatory. Oh, well, yeah, that is a thing. And oh, somebody had a little clerical error here. This is a new whereas clause starting right here. And whereas the Idaho Republican platform, in alignment with the principles in blah 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 in equal opportunity, shall treat all. Oh, okay. So they're even saying that where they got the above right there. Cool. I'm in agreement with it. Whereas the Idaho Republican platform stands for the principle that government should treat all individuals with impartiality without regard to race, color, ethnicity, or national origin. And oh, they did it again. They need to break out the whereas clause again. But whereas the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that no state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Yeah, that's a thing, and it's a good thing. Whereas we call on a state and to uphold the principles of the. Oh, there's something I could say right here about the governor, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep going. Where for the United States Constitution and the core American value of equality under the law. Very Republican thing. Uh, Therefore, be it resolved that probably going to be changed. Formally called on the Iowa legislature and to enact legislation that bans discrimination by race, also known as affirmative action. Okay, so they're actively calling it out right there. In hiring decisions for all this stuff that I agree with, or just allowed to all the stuff that I agree with, expresses its commitment to the principle of the equal opportunity, all stuff that I agree with, directs the Valley County to transmit official. Okay. Ask the okay. I would write this out in separate resolve clauses than by all of this. In fact, it's kind of poor form to do it like this numbered, but I'll agree with the resolution anyway because it's proper and it's very Idahoan and it's very Republican. So of course we're going to be okay for it. And see, the last one says asks the Idaho Republicans to pass similar resolution. Okay, well. There's a nitpicky thing I could say about that last part, but I'm just going to let it go since I agree with it. So, future me. Resolution 2024-13. Prohibition of blah. Yeah. Say agree and like 3 thumbs up. With, the emojis. Okay. So, I'm just going to move on. Resolution 2024-14. Condemning dark money in Idaho campaign finance. Submitted by Lucas Bum. Oh, yeah, that's a good dude. He's a cool dude. To be presented by the same, passed by Canyon County. Yeah, being late like a lot of their Ada County counterparts. um, Whereas Idaho has laws called sunshine laws, which are intended to curb the influence of dark or unattributed money in political campaigns. He's not wrong. Whereas in October 2023, the Idaho Liberty PAC sponsored attack ads. Oh, he's going after all the Oh, good for you, Lucas. Going after this. Okay. Whereas in October 2023, the Idaho Liberty PAC sponsored attack ads totaling in 45 grand against 3 Republican senators in Canyon County, and the source of that money was obscured by indirect contributions through other PACs. That's I knew that something was iffy about the funding for them. I didn't know that, though. I didn't know that the source of money was ultimately obscured. And I want to hear the presentation on this. Therefore, be it resolved that the IDGOP reaffirms Idaho's sunshine laws and condemns the use of dark money in campaigning and calls for further reforms of campaign finance to prohibit funneling monies through PACs. I like where you're trying to go with this. Be careful about the actual rules that you make, though. Just saying. Therefore, be it further resolved that the IDGOP will investigate and report the use of dark money in political advertising as follows: establish facts, raise awareness, issue praise from the. Lucas, this should be codified later. If you end up watching this should be codified into our rules later because this is important. I see what you're doing, and I see what you're doing is good. So future me, when you're writing this all down, write down Resolution 2024-14 as hard agree. And then like a bunch of thumbs up emojis. Alright, I'm going to move on because otherwise I could get really angry about what a lot of dark money is doing. So, Resolution 2024-15, Protection of Idaho Public Lands and Adjacent Private Property Owners. Alright. Submitted by Rachel Hatton for Fremont County Republican Central Committee. Be presented by Terry DeLong. Passed by... Okay, I kind of don't like how that's blank right there. Whatever. Alright. Let's see what's going on with this at least. Whereas the Fremont County Republican Central Committee strongly supports the lease and the lease of public lands and for traditional uses, granted and logging, blah blah blah. Whereas the Idaho Admissions Bill states that leased land granted under this act for education permit may be leased in accordance. Okay, that's a thing. Whereas Idaho Land Board policy allows for public recreation on endowment lands provided those activities do not degrade the lands, interfere with management activities, or otherwise negatively affect the long-term financial return to beneficiaries. Okay, yeah, that's a thing. It's not a bad thing either. There should be some rules about that kind of thing, obviously. Whereas the Endowment Land and Recreation mission statement is to... Okay, further supporting statements. It's going to take too long if I read it all out. Whereas the state of Idaho supports the good neighboring on public lands is committed to transparency in government. Allegedly. It's supposed to be that way, that's for sure. Whereas the Idaho Department of Lands does not provide oversight or compliance officers who regularly provide on-site inventory and or inspection of glamping. Oh, this is the glamping one. Okay. Okay. You know what? Somebody's upset about glamping. And so I'm going to need to know more about the actual harm that glamping and glamping operations do before I have any real opinion on this, because this could be a resolution pointing out a really bad thing, and this could also be some Karen using a resolution to attack someone. There's no way for me to really figure out which is which without more information and looking into this. So, there's a lot of, there's a lot. There's a lot. Oh. Okay, what resolution was this again? Okay, future me. Say, okay, write this down. Resolution 2024-15. I want to see the presentation on this. Comma. No agree or disagree yet. And then I'm just going to move on because I could get into the weeds on a lot of this and it could waste a lot of time. So I'm just going to move on to the next one. Resolution 2024-16, establish standards and procedures for hiring educators and school personnel. It's submitted by Lucas Bombach, to be presented by the same. Okay. Okay, yeah, so a familiar name with a familiar detail. All right, so whereas schools are significant influences of children's worldviews and moral character, well, that is a thing. Whether it's good or bad is a whole discussion. Whereas teachers and other school personnel are entrusted to interact with children without constant oversight and must be trustworthy. Well, should be, by all rights, at least some oversight, but I get what you're saying here. There should be some oversight at least, because schools have often hired not good people. I'll just say that. Whereas school districts have recently considered accepting policies which would normalize gender theory in schools, and this is not normal. Can't really say otherwise. I mean, Lucas is correct here. Therefore, be it resolved that standards and procedures for hiring educators and other school personnel be developed with the goal of hiring professional staff of high moral character who reject gender theory, which is an agenda. Oh, okay. So I see what you're doing here. Okay. Therefore, be it resolved that such standards and procedures, once approved by the state, will be provided to. Oh, so you want to have party involvement with more directly with education standards. Okay, future me. Write down Resolution 2024-16 as passive agree, and then just leave it there. Moving on to the next one, before, otherwise I could say something I might regret. Resolution 2024-17. Title: Order of Hearing County Submitted Resolutions. Submitted by Todd Thomas, Franklin County Chair, to be presented by the same. Oh, okay, so this name in detail again. All right. Whereas County Central Committees of Idaho pay annual dues to the in order to earn vote. This is not necessarily one to the other here. Annual dues paid to the in order to earn voting rights at meetings and he's glossing over a lot of the meaning and intent behind certain rules. But I'm just going to keep going. Whereas paid dues status should also earn the privilege and right to be presented and heard in regards to rules and resolutions. Legally, there may be a problem there. If if I gather where he's going with this, you are a organized county or legislative district central committee, and you should therefore have representation at the state level. Now, recent rule changes have tied convention involvement to paying dues and leaving the rest of it alone so that we could still hear from them. But anyway, whereas Article 2 of the Idaho Republican Party encourages citizen involvement in government with full participation. I don't think you're making the point you think you're making. Full involvement in this case would mean whether a county paid dues or not. Anyway, whereas the semi-annual meetings and biannual convention are public opportunities for said participation of the individual candidates. This is true. I think you're glossing over a few details here, but yeah, that's true. Whereas in previous meetings, many submitted resolutions were not considered before. Okay, you're mad that there wasn't enough time. That's not an issue that can be fixed with a resolution. But move on. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Idaho GOP Central Committee advocate for a rule to allow for the county submitted resolution and/or rule be granted presentation before the appropriate committees for debate and voting for approval in the alphabetical order repeated until all submissions have been fairly heard. This is impractical. And believe me, I'd love for every submission to be heard, or at least be given a chance. But there are reasons. And also, I will point out, especially with certain things that I've been involved in the past, where delegates at conventions, and this is also, and apparently something, and I could give some examples, but it'll take too long. But also, some things have made it through county committees in the past, and I think even a couple of LDs also in the past, where it's very clear that the author or whoever submitted the resolution in question was not either wasting time, deliberately wasting time, or trying to put in a rule or resolution that is inherently unrepublican. Tasso Kinnis at the 2020 convention is the biggest example of this. And yes, I was the one to strike those down so that they weren't even heard. And that's because he was basically trying to submit a socialist wish list that is inherently unrepublican and inherently inappropriate at a Republican convention. So, saying this right here, that all of everything deserves to be heard, not necessarily, because if this were to be a rule, it is one of the first avenues that outsiders will take to break and disrupt us. So I'm going to say disagree, and for good reasons. So future me, write this down. Resolution 2024-17, disagree, and for good reasons. And then just leave it at that. So I'm going to move on before I get even more angry, because I think someone's really wrong, and I think the person who submitted that requires a lot of introspection before speaking ever again. Anyway, moving on to Resolution 2024-18, titled Rejecting Wind Solar Agenda, submitted by Lucas Bombach, be presented by the same familiar details. Okay, so this is one of the ones I said, I want to see what you're getting at. Whereas the wind solar agenda promotes a goal of 100% replacement of fossil fuels with wind and solar. Yeah, that is a thing. Whereas wind and solar cannot provide enough reliable energy to replace fossil fuels. Yeah, that is also a thing. Yeah, you just try to fly a plane on only solar energy. Just try to do that. Whereas nuclear energy can provide oh, he's looking to start a fight. Good on you, Lucas. Therefore, be it resolved that the IDGOP shall recommend reliable sources of energy, including fossil fuels and nuclear power, to the state legislature, with the goal of such recommendation being incorporated into Iowa law. Okay, that I agree with that, of course, being an American, but we'll see where that goes. I'll get some popcorn. Therefore, be it further resolved that the IDGOP shall recommend reliable sources, including congressional. Okay, so the same, but for the feds. Got it. Future me, right? For Resolution 2024-18, write agree with the smiley face emoji. And then we're just gonna move on. Resolution 2024-19, opposition to the availability of marijuana to youth in Idaho, submitted by Kristen Clark. Krishna, to be presented by the same, the youth committee chair. Okay, passed by Caribou County at about the same time that a lot of us did, kind of late. So, whereas the Colorado Bureau of Cannabis. Oh, I clicked on some dumb link. Ah, great. This is probably going to take a moment to get back to it. Ah, crap. All right. Yeah, this is live. This is still live, isn't it? Okay. Well, that's coming back. Yeah, don't put links like that in your resolution, because it causes. I'm just going to check my phone here, make sure everything's still working. Yeah, everything's still working here. But I'm going to have to find that page again. So I know that's past page 18 probably. Yeah, this is real riveting stuff now. Okay. Let's see. Education standards one. Okay, marijuana. Okay, I saw the words marijuana. Okay, resolution 2024-19. Opposition to the availability of. Okay, gone through all that. Try not to click on any of this crap. Uh, I'm going to have to click somewhere on this just to highlight stuff. Whereas the Colorado Bureau of Cannabis Control has determined that youth routinely exposed to marijuana are more likely to have a hard time learning. I don't disagree with this, but I'm wary of where you're going with it. Whereas the U.S. Surgeon General has determined that marijuana beginning in teen years or younger may affect the brain development. Yeah, that's true. And that's true of a lot of things that are also very legal, even in Idaho. I don't think they're making the point they think they're making. Anyway, whereas the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, is that the right word right there? Either way, the CDC has found marijuana has been linked to depression, antisocial, and social anxiety, or develop temporary psychosis, and long-lasting mental, including schizophrenia. You're not wrong here, but you're inching towards the threshold I have for talking about a certain thing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we oppose any law having the effect of making marijuana more available to youth in Idaho. Having the okay, you're doing a lot of heavy lifting with this phrase right here. Ugh, just saying. Be it further resolved that the okay. This resolution isn't necessarily wrong, and you know what? I'll even grant them as much as you're not coming from a bad place. However, as I alluded to a little bit ago, it's the wrong approach because there are a lot of very legal things that if any youth was regularly ingested or was a regular user of, it would absolutely be a problem. And I'm talking about legal without even consulting a doctor or anything like that. I mean, just caffeine alone, habitual use of caffeine alone when you're that young can absolutely have serious long-term effects on you. And not only that, but hey, let's, you know, there are a lot of opioids that are, of course, legal in the state of Idaho. And of course, they are legal for a reason. However, they have just as bad, if not worse, effects on people. And we're definitely not handling alcohol use by young people the same way as what this resolution is, portends. And alcohol abuse by a minor is absolutely a horrific thing, and yet it happens all the time. So we need to, and the thing is, fine. I admit that a a young person using marijuana is absolutely a problem. However, we are definitely not approaching this problem from a productive angle. And any good Republican should not view kindly on the expansion of government. Any Republican, at least if you are really a Republican. So Future me with Resolution 2024-19. Say something. Write this down. Not wrong, comma, but wrong approach. Just say that on there. And I'm going to move on before I get mad. Resolution 2024-20, establishing processes to ensure fair and open debate. Submitted by Daryl Ford. Oh, hey, the Fords. Yeah, I know Daryl. He's okay. He's a good dude. Submitted by Daryl Ford to be presented by the same, passed by Canyon County. Similar detail. Okay. Whereas the IDGOP platform, Article 2, encourages citizens to participate in government, including open debate. It's not wrong. Whereas the screening of questions in open debate hinders citizen participation. I see what you're getting at here. I don't completely agree, but I see what you're getting at here. Whereas the Delphi technique, as contained in the book Pushback by Beverly Eekman, is defined as a Marxist technique for controlling debate. Not wrong, I've heard of this. And open debate is completely open debate without screening. Is absolutely a vector that a troll would use to break something down. I mean, I'm a troll, I admit it, and that's an open submission of questions or any kind of content is absolutely a vector I would take to troll people. That's absolutely what I would be doing. Therefore, be it resolved that Republicans should prohibit and condemn the use of the Delphi. Okay, fine. I mean, I'll passively agree with crap. With that resolve clause right there. Therefore, be it further resolved that in any Idaho GOP approved or sanctioned debates and forums, moderators will promote debate by not screening questions for content and okay, I don't agree with this, and that is because I know exactly what trolls will do, because I've done that kind of thing before. So Daryl, come on, man. I know you have a head on your shoulders. I know you have a good brain and a good heart, but you need to think this one through. Therefore, be it further resolved that GOP should be open meeting. No, Daryl, what are you doing? No. Executive session should absolutely be a thing. So that runs in complete contravention to the last resolve clause. Not only that, but this is definitely happening in Ada County, where we know that the Democrats are showing up to a lot of the different district meetings as well as the county meetings for not only for monitoring what we're doing, but at times also a passive disruption. So I do not agree at all with that. If the party decides that a meeting should be closed, then it should be closed. And they probably already, by the time they've made that decision, they probably already have a lot of really good reasons, just from experience there. So, future me, for Resolution 2024-20, say, passive disagree, comma, want to hear the presentation. Just leave it at that, and hopefully people understand. So, Resolution 2024-21, mandatory minimum sentence for fentanyl tracking. I don't disagree, but I'm wary of where this is headed. Submitted by, of course, Trent Clark. To be presented by the same, passed by Caribou County, about the same time a lot of us here in Ada did. Okay. Whereas the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, the increase of fentanyl-related overdoses and blah. Okay, I don't disagree. Idaho has mandatory minimum sentences for heroin. Okay, a lot of other opioids, drugs that are as dangerous as fentanyl, which estimated to kill someone with doses. Okay, I've heard a lot of these facts before. They're not wrong. I'm wary of where you're going, though. Whereas Bonneville County Sheriff has testified as a matter of common sense that sentencing involving would use similar criteria to send a message to all the draw. Okay, I don't disagree, but we may be attacking the problem from the wrong end. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Idaho Republicans that we support the establishment of a mandatory minimum sentence for fentanyl. I don't disagree. Therefore, be it further resolved that the party liaisons to. Okay, he stopped just short of where I thought he was going with this. Okay. In this case, I'm going to have to say I agree, but we are treating fentanyl differently than a lot of things that are just as harmful, that are completely legal to get, or at least just a lot easier to get. In fact, there have been, more than I would like to admit, more family members than I'd like to admit in my family that have been negatively affected by completely legal opioids. In fact, there's a certain person from a previous generation in this family who became addicted to opioids, and it just melted his brain. And it made his dementia worse. And it just sanded off any of the good parts of him. The only things that are left are all the bad and evil parts. Opioids did that to him. I'm convinced. So, future me. That got really dark really quick. Future me. Resolution 2024-21. Say passive agree, comma, but afraid of where this is going. Just say that. Move on before I. Oh, that's the end. Hallelujah, that is the end. Okay. Well, in that case, it's been close to a couple of hours, just like the first time I went over this packet. I'm gonna end the live stream here. I've gone over the whole packet now. And I'll see some of you at the state, winter meeting. And I got I'm gonna go lay down now. So y'all have a